Let's switch now to 2016, although playing with all of the same themes, basically. Yeah. David, to you, is there a big question in 2016 that you hope will get resolved, or at least a question we should keep in mind as we're looking at issues in the next year?
It's who wins. We've all talked about this. It's who wins what's essentially an election about inequality. Is it, the Trump sort of rhetoric, which is just playing on the division and getting people to blame Mexicans and others maybe for what's happening, or can, the likely Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton somehow come up with solutions to inequality? But I think that's the issue of the coming year. It's the issue of this election. And it's so visceral and so honest.
I don't think that it's actually about inequality. I think it's about change more broadly than that. And I think that what we really are seeing is a group of disaffected Americans who are responding to these outsider candidates in a way that they have not historically. The real question is whether they're going to actually show up and vote. But it's actually coming at a time when there is an opportunity, I think, for dramatic change. We saw the change in leadership in the Republican Party when it came to the Congress this year. We're going to see additional, I think, generational change in both parties over the course of the coming several years. And I think that the real question is whether there is one party that is able to translate this anger, this demand for dramatic change into something healthy, or whether it turns into a kind of stray voltage effect within the election that isn't actually translated into either party.
Jeanne, what did we learn, if anything, about money? We're talking about a situation in which basically the grassroots overwhelms the elites. The elites are the ones with the money. There was a lot of talk before this campaign about how candidates with fundraising prowess, Scott Walker, gone from the race. Jeb Bush, shock and awe he'd raised so much money, not doing well in the polls. Did we learn anything about the power of this populist movement with respect to money?
We learned that you can't buy an election, and that is very heartening, that small donors can still have a big influence. We also were reminded of a lesson that we knew before, but forgot in all of the super PAC moments, and that is that donating to a candidate is the first vote. And so the candidates that can draw small donors can survive because that's real support. And the funny thing with Trump that people overlook is he talks about, I don't want your money, I'm financing my own campaign. He's not. He's not. If you go back and look, because he's not buying TV ads, right, so he's not spending big, he actually has enough small donations, unsolicited, coming into his campaign that he's financing it with their money. So we have been reminded that the money primary does matter, and that is in the small donor, not necessarily the big donor.
Yeah, and it's part of the interesting paradox of Trump that this billionaire would serve as the most effective vehicle for this populist. This populist strain is something we've heard going back several cycles, certainly to Pat Buchanan, but that Trump is able to call out the donor class the way he has because he's been a member of it is kind of remarkable. Can I put another question on the table, though, that I'd love the answer to in the year ahead, which is the problem of Syria? I doubt we'll get that answer, but going back to what Ben was saying about the stress on Europe and the greater Middle East, making some progress towards the solution there seems to me.
I don't see any candidate really. I mean, there's talk on the Republican side about being more tough, but I don't think anyone's going to send in a large number of American troops. That's the only way you sort of quickly change and stabilize Syria. So I think you see more of this same awful, the deaths, the refugee flows, and a stronger ISIS. Yes, they're losing ground in Iraq, but their messages resonate.
And Syria is a two-pronged question: Assad and ISIS.
The most interesting thing, I think, for both parties right now is what did you learn from the last 15 years? What are the lessons you took from these experiences when it comes to foreign and domestic policy? I think what you see on the Republican side is a number of candidates who have taken away certain things. It is no accident that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, the two people who are most critical of the Iraq policy under the Bush administration, are leading in the polls currently on the Republican side. That says something significant. It's also a question of what Hillary Clinton learned from the last 15 years. We're going to find that out over the next year.
All right, we're going to have to end it there. Thanks to all of you. Happy New Year. We'll be right back.